like it's working now.
All right. Look at that. That's just, you just have to threaten it within, an inch of its life, and then the videos start playing. I love it. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Good to be here.
Please tell us about you.
Yeah, I am a senior product manager on the Amazon SES team. You'll hear SES a lot. That's simple email service.
Email. Everybody loves email, right? Sam, I don't know if you heard this or not. You were backstage, so you may have. But Jasmine said this was the one that she was looking forward to the most.
Yeah, it touched my heart. I really appreciated that.
I breathe email. Sam, I don't know if you know this, but I lead the partner email team. So my team sends all the emails to partners across the globe. So
well, we might have something for you today then.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love deliverability. So I'm so excited to see how we can make it better. That's the whole goal as an email marketer, is like, how do we get to the inbox? We want to make sure that we make it there, because we can't take any other actions unless they actually make it.
That's 100% right. Well, shall we just jump into it? Let's talk a little bit about SES. I'll just give you a 2-minute intro to the service, just to level set. So obviously, simple email service has a lot to do with email, as you can imagine. And one second, let me advance my slide here. So just to talk about the service itself, basically, when you think simple email service, what this is email at scale for applications that are generating emails directly. And you can think of anything from, say, shopping carts to automatic outreach or password resets, you name it. When you have workloads that need to generate emails at scale, simple email service is your go-to solution. Primarily, we take the scale and reliability challenges out of sending hundreds, thousands, millions, billions of emails reliably, quickly, and with essentially a turnkey experience. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to set up fleets. You don't have to worry about managing retries. SES just gives it to you all in a prepackaged experience. And just to give you an idea of some of the things people use simple email service for, we see a lot of transactional messages, like I mentioned, like ship confirmations, or you could see things like notifications of password reset required or processing password resets. We also do inbound emails. I'll be focusing more on the outbound scenarios today. And we also support marketing communications. And this is for businesses that need to stay in touch with their customers, keep them up to date, tell them about new offers that are coming out, you name it. Anything that has to do with email, which is one of the most ubiquitous channels for communicating with customers available today, SES does it at scale, integrated with any application you can imagine.
He's talking about you, Jasmine.
He is.
Do you feel seen?
I do. Scale is an understatement. I think we need a new word for email marketers.
Well, let's talk about a problem, because everybody knows about email. Everybody has heard of email. You can assume that pretty much everyone has an email address. So when you talk about connecting with your customers, email's a go-to place. Sometimes I think that kids learn about email before they learn how to spell. It's just everywhere. The problem is, when you think about getting emails to your customers, there's another side of this equation, and that's the mailbox provider side. So you can think Gmail, you can think Yahoo. They have a huge vested interest in making sure that all the emails that come to their customers are desired, that they're emails they want to see. It's such a ubiquitous channel that there's some unwanted traffic out there. So for anybody that's sending emails to stay in touch with their customers, there's a concept that's very important, and it's called email deliverability. And what this means is, this is essentially, how do I measure how many of my emails are actually getting through to my customers? Usually it's very high, but you need to be aware of it. You need to monitor it. You need to take action if there's a problem with it. And unfortunately, as easy as it is to understand email, this is an area that a lot of people do not understand. If you understand what's going on in the industry as far as making sure customers get the emails they want, it's actually very complicated. And what we've done is we've released a new feature in SES to help you with this. We want to make this as simple as possible. We want to make it so you don't really need to understand all the domain information necessary. You can just trust SES to give you the insights you need to find out, hey, are my emails actually going through to my customers? Or if they're not, where? And what do I do about it? And that's actually, it can be a little bit of a challenging problem to figure out exactly what's wrong, where, and what to do about it. But we are making this a turnkey solution for you with Virtual Deliverability Manager, in that you get insights into what's happening with your deliverability. You can see the full funnel end to end, everything from how many emails you send to how many actually get clicked through by customers, excuse me. We also provide a engine which will generate recommendations for you about what to do to make it better. And this is super helpful because, like, if you don't know a lot about deliverability or infrastructure, it's hard to figure out what to do next. And finally, we'll even automatically implement changes to help increase your reputation, which is basically how mailbox providers think about you, and increase the amount of emails you get through to your customers. And the best news is this is available today, so you want to go play around with it. It's out there. We just released 2 days ago, and it's waiting.
I love it. Any features for increasing your own personal reputation, professional? No, just kidding.
Technically, if you use this, you'll be able to deliver results at lower costs, so that will help.
All right. I've always been told I have a bad reputation, so that just leapt out at me. So what you're saying, Sam, is I'm not on the email yet, but I should go check it out. It sounds like I'm just kidding. Of course, we are inundated with emails, right? Constantly, which is, I think, at the heart of what you're saying, Sam. We don't know what to open. We don't know. And oftentimes how we judge that, obviously, is by the sender. And that's even if it gets to the right inbox, right? If you don't like I think you said earlier, if it goes to spam, people aren't opening it, right? It's just not going to happen. Is that your nightmare, Jasmine? That you end up in somebody's spam box?
No, not at all. I don't have those nightmares. I do things to prevent it.
Well, we do.
No, sometimes, you do hear that something gets to spam, right? It's our job, like Sam is saying, right? We want to think about some of those recommendations. Sam, tell us a little bit about some of those recommendations that you mentioned. If customers are finding that, their emails are getting to spam, what does this recommendation engine tell you to think about changing? What can you improve?
I'll actually pop up a visual here. So showing a little bit of an example. Getting some scrolling issues here. There's a couple of things. Well, first off, you can think of this kind of as an open ticket for things that are coming in the future. What we've launched today is focused on ensuring that the appropriate configuration is in place to build trust with mailbox providers. If I'm going to go send a bunch of password resets, emails, last thing I want to do is see one of those end up in a spam folder. And there's absolutely no reason that a customer would want to see that in a spam folder, but that happens sometimes. So one of the things you can do is you can set up the right configuration to prove basically the chain of custody, that when an email comes to a provider like Google or Yahoo, that it is coming from a domain that is given permission for it to be sent, that is coming through a channel that the owning domain says is an okay channel to send the email. All these kinds of things will set up this expectation of trust with a mailbox provider. So you start off with a presumption that the email is probably okay, unless there's been some other signals that the provider is aware of. Maybe a customer has marked things as spam repeatedly, but at least in this case, you're starting off on the best foot, and customers have an opportunity to see your content, embrace it, and then decide what's right for them.
Sam, what are the most common things that go into a reputation score?
It really varies by provider. So Gmail, Yahoo, all these folks, this is one of the hard problems, is that everybody has their own special sauce. It's actually a kind of competitive advantage because, hey, I as Gmail want to beat Yahoo. So I'm going to say, hey, come to Gmail because you'll get less spam. And I'm not going to tell you how I do that. And that's one of the benefits of having something like Virtual Deliverability Manager, because it is our team's job to figure these things out and do the best thing possible. It's not really practical for every customer out there to go figure this stuff out and watch it change over time as spam attackers. It's kind of like an antivirus. You don't want to write the antivirus. You just have somebody
use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, kind of what's the benefit here? I know like in the past, like 5-6 years ago, we'd have to go talk with our, person who's ever doing our marketing automation. We'd have to find their deliverability consultant, get on their calendar, get in line, have a 1-hour session, figure out what's wrong, look at the metrics. How is this different from that?
Yeah, and that's something we hear a lot. A lot of customers will go out there and they'll use deliverability consultants. The challenge there is the engagement model is obviously not ideal. You want your information when you need it at your fingertips. Also, they can be expensive. We hear $250 an hour. Not a surprise. Virtual Deliverability Manager gives you a lot of the insights and recommendations about what to do, so you get a lot of that yourself right out of the gate. I'll show you some of the things you can see. For example, you might engage a deliverability manager to build the funnel so that you can have visibility into it. Say, like, I'm sending all these emails, what's happening? How many are getting through? So this is an example in the virtual deliverability dashboard. This gives you the full funnel at the account level, so you can see how many emails you sent, how many were delivered, how many people actually complained about it by marking it spam. You have bounce information. And then you can also see how many people actually opened the email, looked at it, and then even how many people actually clicked on it. So this is like a really easy transition for you to just in one shot say, how effective is this? Now that's great at an account level, but it gets much more interesting when you start breaking this down by individual ISPs. An ISP is what we call a mailbox provider like Yahoo or Google. Sometimes you'll see, well, my numbers aren't really where I want them to be, but they're not that bad either, and I can't figure out why. And what happens, you go and you break things down into little pieces, you find out you have a problem in one place, and it kind of gets lost when it's all added together. So being able to look around, you'll see sometimes that, hey, you're sending all these emails out, and you're only having a problem with Yahoo. Yahoo, your deliverability is just really low. Everybody else is fine. That helps you focus on the problem and try to find out the root cause. We also allow you to pivot by sending identities, which is the email addresses you're using. A lot of customers have different addresses for different purposes. Like they may use one address for marketing outreach, saying, hey, we have new promotional offers. They may use another one for transactional things like order confirmations and things like that. Again, you add all these together, you look at your deliverability rates. May not look quite right, but not really awful either. You break them apart, you see, hey, marketing may be having some challenges, but our transactional operations are doing wonderfully. This, again, helps you focus, and we give you additional levels of detail within each individual sending address. You can drill down into the individual mailbox provider there as well. And that gives you a further level of granularity. You may say, we're having marketing problems with Yahoo only. And having that visibility helps you understand what to do next. And for customers that are doing things like doing A/B tests, it's very common, especially for very large outreach. You're going to have some email campaign. You're going to create one template, another template. You want to send it to a limited audience each and see which has the better responses. Configuration sets in SES help with that. You can use a configuration set to send each individual template, and then using Virtual Deliverability Manager, you see those funnels side by side, and that can help you understand what the impact of different changes in your targeting, in your email structure have on your overall deliverability story. So lots of different ways to pivot this. This is kind of the visibility and awareness component. I can look at my account overall. I can look by sender identity. I can look by mailbox provider, all these different pivots. I can use this for A/B testing. It gives you all the information that you would expect coming from a deliverability consultant, but it's right at your fingers, built into the console. Don't need to wait for engagements. Don't need to, POs, nothing like that. It's just right there.
I love it. Go ahead, Jasmine.
I was just going to ask, how do you think that this is going to change our customers' email programs?
There's a couple of things that will happen. First off, customers will feel much more empowered to have the visibility into the level of detail needed to take action. Not only knowing what is going on, but to be able to say, hey, here's our problem, and it's at a scope where we can jump in there, we can do something about it. They're going to get excited right there, but then they're going to be even more excited, not only now, but as we continue to add recommendations to the advisor, when they just go over there and say, what do I do? And advisor says, do this, here's the link to the docs. And it makes it real easy to just go do it yourself. And then I think the most magical piece of all of this is a part we haven't talked about yet, which is our third component, and that's Guardian. Guardian is an automated engine that runs behind the scenes when you opt into Virtual Deliverability Manager, and it is essentially the collection of it is our collective wisdom on the SES team about how to take things that are happening at scale, adjust them to increase deliverability. And let me give you one example. One thing we do is if we see you're sending emails over a shared IP address to a specific mailbox provider, we will look and see at that moment, which IP address has the highest reputation by itself with that mailbox provider, and use that. So basically, we intelligently route your traffic over the highest reputation channel available. And again, Guardian's like one of these big buckets is just going to continue growing over time, dynamic traffic throttling, things like that. Everything that we can do automatically to increase your reputation. So with all of this together, it's going to make it much easier to just kind of step back, understand the what and the why, and not necessarily focus on the how. And also just trust that deliverability is just going to get better when you enable Virtual Deliverability Manager.
That's super cool about the IP. I mean, that's one thing that sometimes you really can't control, right? Like if you don't have alternative IPs to send from, what do you do? So that's amazing that and SES just handles that for me. I don't have to come in and configure anything. It'll just auto detect and change.
Not only that, that's kind of, again, one of our bucket type of features. So you'll see that getting smarter over time. We have what we have today, and you're going to see us continuing to add intelligence to that. So it'll just keep getting better over time, similar to how Advisor does.
That's super cool. I mean, it sounds like you can get a lot of insights. Number one, we detect, and you mentioned the recommendations too. I mean, like I imagine very common things like errors. There's a lot of, it's kind of complicated unless you work with email all the time, understanding like how a message goes through an authentication process, right? Like how it's signed, and virtual deliverability manager is going to call that out. Like I saw some of these, like DKIM verification has failed, right?
And there's some really important things that can happen here, especially when you do things at high scale. It's not uncommon for some of these configurations to get disrupted. For example, SPF depends on entries in domain records. Somebody publishes the wrong thing, or one expires and the whole framework breaks down. You're not going to find out about that unless it's being monitored. Virtual Deliverability Manager not only checks it, it also monitors it. So you'll quickly get awareness that something's broken. And this helps you maintain confidence that not only are you set up right, that you continue to be set up right. Because sometimes things like that can have such a long turnaround on discovery that the damage is enormous. You end up having like your entire organization blacklisted for reasons you don't understand because somebody broke your configuration, you didn't understand why.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely, DNS is a great, I think, example to use, Sam, because it's not just email or IT admins going in and altering DNS records, because it's a shared service for anything that uses a domain name, right? So you got a lot of people touching your DNS records for a domain. Very easy, like you said, to, I don't know what this record is, I'm gonna delete that, right? And then all of a sudden downstream, now your email is getting bounced back or denied.
Especially TXT records. People are like, why do you need those? They're important.
It also feels like an extra layer of protection on the security side, right? Like you might have one of these go down and you don't know for a while, right? Until something happens. But here with the recommendations, you can see, and I really love here that you can see the age.
Yeah, and the refresh on this is pretty quick. You'll get down to surface areas or exposure timeframe surface areas on the order of 1 to 6 hours. So we'll catch very quickly changes there. And if you had a nefarious internal bad actor who was going in and messing up your domain name records, you would discover it. Probably, we hope. We would have to benchmark this, but the hope would be you'd discover it before your brand was given any significant reputation damage. It would take time to repair. Some of these things, if a serious problem with reputation arises, it can take quite a bit of time, days, weeks even, to repair the reputation. So catching these things fast is important.
Yeah, number one, I have to acknowledge Robert Tables is bringing in the classic joke about Route 53 being a shared database. The oldest database, really, I guess. Not really, not oldest, but DNS. Yes, a database. I love it. But Sam, you mentioned, like, you want to avoid getting on the deny list for sure. And if you've already been put on the deny list, it might be a little too late. So I wanted to ask, when do you recommend turning on, this deliverability manager?
It's always best to start off with your best foot forward. So it's a good thing when you're starting with a new sender identity, or you're just getting started in general. This is a great way to make sure you get started right, because zero reputation is better than than bad reputation. When you go out there, you start making mistakes that you're not aware of. Having this in your back pocket is a great way to make sure that you get started right. That every time you deliver a message successfully and a customer reads it and likes it and uses it and doesn't mark it as spam, that you're building positive reputation and doing that as fast as possible. So this is a great thing to have up front to make sure you get started in an optimal pathway.
Yeah, it sounds to me like the earlier the better, for sure, because you'll have more data to power those insights and learn what's actually going on. In your experience, Sam, how common is it to have a good picture of what your reputation is as a customer?
Essentially never.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, the amount of domain knowledge required to truly master reputation is very high. It is, and again, a lot of that is driven by the fact that everything is a special solution within each mailbox provider. So basically, to really understand this, you need to get to know Hotmail, Gmail, Google, Yahoo, etc. All of these things. Every one of them is different.
And it's always sliding, like you said, always changing.
They're always changing. They have new releases.
Yep, and it's difficult to get into this space. And most customers we see, they start looking at it. They say, "Oh, that's complicated. Can we get away with what we're doing now? It's okay." And what they end up with is something that functionally is tolerable, but they just could be doing something much better. And it doesn't take much effort. You flip something like this on, you get some very fast insights. You may find you have just one bad identity, and you can take action on that. You'd be surprised how easy some of these problems are. You flip it on, you realize you don't have SPF configured, all kinds of things. And then the dynamic routing obviously just lifts up your reputation across the board.
We've got a question from chat around MX records. I don't know, and please correct me if I'm inferring the wrong thing here, chat. I believe they're asking for the virtual deliverability manager specifically. Does it check if the domain already has an MX record? And if it doesn't, does it not send email? They phrased it, does SES check? So they may also just be asking SES in general. Does it check first for an MX record in your DNS associated to a domain before sending an email?
I would be happy to provide the list of all the checks we do.
Okay,
I can bring that in offline. We have documentation on all the checks end, so we'll bring that into the comments.
Love it. That's great. Thank you so much, Sam. Well, cool. I think we are running out of time here. Anything you want to leave us with, Sam? Any words of wisdom? Any advice on getting started, either with SES or a virtual deliverability manager?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things you can do is give it a spin. It's pay-as-you-go pricing, so you only pay for what you use, no upfront costs, no static charges, anything. It's just a charge per message, so you can flip it on, see what it tells you, flip it off, give it a shot, see what you learn, and decide if this is something that makes sense for your company.
I love it. I love it, Sam. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this.
Thanks for having me.